Well, good morning from the Zion Washes, and I came down here this morning to photograph this neat colorful spray of leaves and some roots and rocks underneath that I found a few days ago. But actually on my way to this location in the wash, I spotted another location in the wash that I wanted to go to and hadn't ever been to that one before. So I stopped at that one and made several photographs there, which I didn't film because I forgot to put the video camera in my pack, so I'm going to go back and just show you those locations here in a few minutes. But anyway, so then I came to this location, and by the time I got here, it was a couple hours later than when I originally looked at this picture and did an iPhone shot, and there was really nice sort of cool blue, purple tones to it, and the leaves and the shadows and so forth. And so now I've got this big reflector behind me, or behind the scene, kicking warm light in, which is the typical warm reflected light that we all love. But what I actually liked about this scene, a lot of it was sort of those cool tones. So I actually think I'm a little too late for this picture, and I'm going to have to maybe come back tomorrow earlier in the day and try it again and see, and then I can compare the film and see if the other one will really do that sort of cool tones, more of the blue sky reflecting that rather than this reflected light. Here's the Velvia from this scene. It's a perfectly acceptable transparency and has the nice warm reflected light that we love otherwise and might make a perfectly fine picture. I just wanted to have those cool tones down in here, which I thought made a nice contrast. It also turns out that in the several days between when I took the iPhone photo and when I returned to make this image, the leaves up here had turned, so I lost that variation of tones that I thought was a big part of my original vision for this image. But this is quite nice as is, and I was planning to crop it anyway since I was in between lenses and couldn't quite frame it as tightly as I wanted to with the 300. Maybe something like this would be good. So maybe I'll end up using this image, and perhaps I can return again one day to try for it with the cooler tones as I'd originally envisioned. So anyway, that's what's happening this morning, and I'm going to pack up and head back down Canyon and try to show you some of those other locations that I photographed this morning, and then of course see what else I can find. Well, here's my first subject from this morning. These delicate little wispy leaves against this glowing red sandstone wall. I thought the contrast there was nice. Had some nice striated lines in the sandstone, and that sort of offset with the random wispy nature of those trees, branches. So I was lucky to find this one today. So this is my first setup, and now we'll head on down Canyon and try to find the others and show you those too. So here's the piece of Provia, and it's a little overexposed in here, and that's a function of the spot meter getting fooled a bit because of the dark tones behind the highlight areas I was measuring. So that threw the metering off, and I ended up overexposing this a little bit. But I was able to bring out the detail and bring down those light tones enough to make it work. Probably with a nice drum scan, I could pull even more highlight detail out of there. So this is my next subject. It's a vertical with these little sort of dead branches going down, and then just little past peak, I think, oak leaves sort of scattered throughout. And I just thought it made a really nice sort of sparse and sort of suggesting the end of fall kind of feel. So I really like that. Oh, it's got a little bit of the rock wall in it too. So I thought that one was nice. And gosh, it was so still when I was here this morning, and it really is now still. Still. How about that? So anyway, now just a little bit farther down Canyon to find my final setup from earlier this morning. Here's the Velvia and the Provia. Now, I love the colors of the Velvia, but unfortunately these highlight areas in the branches are just overexposed. And even though the color is not as saturated here in the Provia, I was able to hold more detail. This is just a function of metering. With my spot meter, I wasn't able to read only the highlight areas of the branch without some of the dark areas behind it getting into the 1 degree spot and affecting the reading. So again, I ended up overexposing. I just need to recognize these situations, and where the bright highlight is something I need to hold detail in, either figure out a way to get closer to fill in that 1 degree spot more completely, which I couldn't do here, or try to take an incident reading, or just underexpose a bit. But the Provia exposure is perfectly nice, and I can just add a little saturation and I think it'll be fine. The other thing I plan to do is crop down a little because, again, I was in between lenses and restricted in my camera position, so I couldn't move closer. So a crop of something like that is about what I had in mind in the field. Well, I found this really neat abstract design here in the wash this morning. This is the final setup that I had today before I took off for that one that I ended up being late to and the light didn't work out right. But this is a really neat picture. It looks like there's a rock here when another rock fell down and kind of cracked it, and wow, that's really, really cool looking, really abstract. I shot it real tight, and so yeah, that's really, really cool. And I was in such a hurry though, this is my last setup before I needed to get on up canyon to that other picture, which was my original picture that I had in mind this morning. I was in such a hurry, I forgot to shoot black and white film on this, and I really wanted black and white because I'm thinking it might make a really neat, sort of a moody, abstract black and white picture, which I like a lot. But I packed up and headed on, and then I realized, oh, I forgot to shoot black and white film. So since I was coming back here to film this little video bits and show you these locations anyway, I thought, well, I'll set all back up and expose the T-Max 100. So I just did that. So now I'm glad to have that on black and white as well as color. So we'll see which, if any, of those work out. So here's the piece of Velvia. It worked out well, perfectly exposed, and looks just like I wanted it. Now I did tone down a couple little distractions in here, and this branch down here, and also that little bright spot here, which is too close to the edge to be that bright. But other than those things, the film looks really good and scanned nicely, so I'm very happy with it. Now in addition to the Velvia, here are the two pieces of T-Max 100. This is the normal development, and this is the normal +1, which means it gets a longer development time to increase contrast. You can see the difference in the shadow detail, so you get a little less in the shadows, and even though the highlights seem darker here, this one ends up having more contrast due to a longer development time, so that's the one I ended up scanning and showing you here, and I think it turned out very well. Now, I'm going to head back to the hotel, pack up all my film to date, and ship it off to the lab. So this is the second time I've shipped film to the lab on this trip, and so I'm just eager to get it out of my hands and into the lab's hands. So that's what I'm going to do, and then probably later this afternoon I'll head back out and explore some more.